Hey everybody, Madeline here to talk about Saturn, which is stays in a sign for about 2.5 to 3 years, is moving in the month of May, May 25th, into the sign of Aries. So it was in Pisces and now it's going to move into Aries. So that's quite a big transit occurring. Saturn is the slowest moving planet of the personal planets. And it does not like to be in Aries because Aries is a very quick, one of the fastest moving energies in the solar system. So when you put the two together, it's very much a frustration because there's a desire and a drive to move quickly and to take things forward. But then Saturn slows it down and says, no, no, take it slow. Make sure your structure is sound. Make sure the procedures are correct, the steps are taken, and time is used to align and make sure that everything is correct. Because these are new beginnings that are going to stabilize our future. And Saturn makes sure that our new beginnings have a foundation, a strong foundation. So it will block and it will cause obstacles and it will give retribution or not positive effects if we operate in any sort of karmically out of aligned way. So Saturn Aries, we're going to have to make sure that we proceed with conscious of the rules and following the rules in whatever area that we are creating advancements. So I'm going to pop the chart. I always like to do the chart the second or the minute that it moves into its sign and I see what's happening. So if we go back a minute, we're going to see Saturn in Pisces. And by the way, on that day, May 24th, it is going to be sort of a final reckoning of a karmic wrap up and the knot, the end of a that is literally like the day, the end of a 30, 29-year cycle. But even past life karmic um, chapter ends for everybody. Although Saturn will retrograde back into Aries this year. I'm sorry, back into Pisces for a little bit, and then it moves back into Aries for the rest of its 2.5 years transit. So anyway, as soon as Saturn moves into the energy of Aries, it makes a very nice sextile to the sun, a nice sextile to Pluto, which would facilitate things. So these new beginnings are supported. There is a universal flow to these new beginnings, although Jupiter is building a square to that, which will happen later in the month. But when Jupiter moves into Cancer, it will square Saturn, which will be another thing to talk about. But during while the transit happens, which really indicates the way it's going to go for the entire transit of Saturn in Aries. So the entire time that Saturn is in Aries, we're going to feel a very strong supportive element or a strong supportive aspect of Venus trining Mars. And Mars will be ruling the energy of Saturn because Mars rules Aries. So the state of Mars indicates that this is a very positive transit because it's very supported by Venus and Mars. So, in other words, the feminine and the masculine are co-collaborating to conspire these new beginnings to create stable new beginnings. So it's sort of with Mars supporting with Mars, sort of like something is being slowed down and stabilized in the background while Mars and Venus is moving things quite rapidly forward, perhaps in relationships, in co-collaborative contracts, in business partnership agreements. So there's a lot of proactive energy and movement going forward, but then Saturn is making sure that things are stabilized and structured and go forward following the rules and the protocol of the universe or the social protocol or the government protocol. Um, so we have a lot of really positive aspects during this shift, which is actually really great because Saturn is a heavy energy and it tends to be a party pooper energy. It tends to sort of block the fun in order for stable results. So with this transit, although the moon is making a square to Pluto, that would indicate that we are busting through some sort of comfort zone and we're finding our way through a fear that has been um, basically out of date, an out of date fear that is sort of being sort of eroded out of us and dissolved and squared by that. So in other words, if something shows up and we're triggered during this shift and fear because of the blockages of Saturn, which could trigger people into fears of finances, Moon in Taurus, um, Pluto in Aquarius. So there could be some sort of blockages through government or some people think the tariffs are going to bring in quite a bit of financial challenge, which it could do. So basically, any kind of emotional fears or triggering that are occurring around finances and money are are not to be worried about. Basically, because with a square like that, I would say that the fear is eroded away and dissolved because of all the other good things that are happening. When Saturn is in the picture, when there's a Saturn transit, you can really rest assured that if money is tight or things feel unabundant, it's because Saturn is grounding things to become more abundant in the long term. And one must not worry at all. Astrology teaches us not to worry at all about things. And that you can see by this chart that Saturn is moving into this position with a lot of planetary support for the moment that Saturn makes that transit, we're going to be feeling quite a lot of support as well for growth. There's going to feel a lot of optimism and faith around this new beginnings. There's going to be an optimistic feeling of growth that the potential is there. So do check out my YouTube channel for all 12 signs, and thank you for watching. Namaste.